Body Image: How We See Ourselves and Others by Alexandra, Anna, Camille, Elisa, and Jessica. Body image: a subjective picture of one's own physical appearance established both by self-observation and by noting the reaction of others.
Beauty: the quality or aggregate of qualities in a person or thing that gives pleasure to the senses or pleasurable exalts the mind or spirit.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I want to share my experiences about body image. I remember in my childhood, I didn't have any concept of body image until my mom told me, if you get fat, it's hard for you to get married in the future. What? Why? My mom said, fat is not beautiful, and boys like beautiful girls. Beautiful? What does that mean? Beautiful. From then on, I noticed that girls should be beautiful. So, what is a beautiful girl? Each girl is beautiful? I don't know. And when I was in the elementary school, there was a girl, my classmate, who was fat, and everyone laughed at her, especially when she was running or jumping. No one wanted to make friends with her, including me. So she always stayed on her own. And that moment, I realized that fat girls are not beautiful, and everyone likes beautiful people. But how was that girl feeling? I didn't even want to know that at that time. When I was in my university in China, I was a big fan of a male movie star. One day, I met him at the airport. I remember seeing his dream fit body and told him that he needed to eat more. But he said, no, a little bit fat on the camera will not look good. The fans will not like me, including you. So I have to restrain myself. Later on in his interview, he said that he only eat boring food without starchy food every day. Can you imagine that? Every day. In China, no matter men or women should be thin, especially idols who need to pay more attention to their body image. They control their appetite and even don't go on a diet. Some idols even haven't eaten rice or meat for several years. Several years. Oh my god. When I was a second year of my university, I watched a Korean movie named 200 Pounds Beauty, which makes it clear that there is a strong contrast between when she is fat and when she becomes thin. So, why everybody has this concept of beauty? Like, thin is beautiful. Where did this concept from? When I read our textbook, I noticed that it is because of socialization. So social structured beauty norms tell us who is beautiful, how can be beauty, and not beautiful people are excluded. So I was thinking that what formed this kind of norm? When I was searching the famous global clothing companies, I noticed that most designers and owners of these companies are Western people. So this reminds me of a word, Main Street culture and dominant group. Western cultures, like English culture, have played a major role in influencing changes to what we have in most areas today. So women are made to believe they have to be, and pressured to accept and this normal. So the dominant group made this kind of beauty concept normal to everybody. So it becomes a trend, and all the women follow this trend. Last week, I was doing our project, and my husband saw that. When I introduced our topic to him, he walked up behind me and said, "Huh, the women's body image is decided by men." What? I was very angry when I heard that and didn't agree with him. But I took a moment to think about it and search some studies. Then I realized that maleness of our society's major influence on what women's lives ought to be like, including the sizes of their bodies. So it leads to what women think of other women's body sizes. So it's a lot of pressure on women to change. We want to be slave. We want to be slave. We want to be slave. In understanding why and how we think "thief" is the concept of beauty, I suddenly thought of my fat and discriminated classmate in my elementary school. And I realized that she was lonely at that time, and maybe even self-denied. I think if all the kids at that time, or earlier, had appreciated the diversity of bodies and respected their differences, maybe the fat kids would have felt a sense of belonging.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. This is Camille now, and I want to just bring up a point in our book. In page 43, it says the first level of our socialization is within our family. So most, if not all, have their families as their sole or dominant force of socialization. And every culture and race has their own beauty standards. And so within the Filipino culture that I am culturally identified as, there's definitely a range in sizes and color depending on what part of the Philippine country you're from. But also, what I found most dominant in being picked on regarding body image is on, next slide, sizeism and colorism. The sizeism towards Filipinos happen often because of our height. We're usually more on the shorter side. But also, there's the sizeism just within the culture that can happen. And an example could be from an elderly who says, "Oh, you got fatter or bigger," or "You should go on a diet," and things like that. Beauty standards does not only have limitations to size, but also towards color or race. And that is colorism. And so we'll see in the next slide is a video from 2019, and the girl who will be talking is a Filipino herself, but we'll hear her talk about what she noticed that is most advertised in the Philippines.
So I kind of spent my first 10 years of living or life kind of in and out London and Philippines. Ever since I got here, all I saw was whitening products, Korean beauty products, whitening, everything I saw was just whitening.
So on the left is a photo of what grocery store shelves in the Philippines would look like, full of whitening soaps and other whitening products. And after watching that previous video, we know now of the true and existing oppressive nature of colorism, especially towards women who these soaps on the shelves are most likely for. On the right are two pictures of my family and I back in the Philippines. You can tell how my skin color differs from my family's. Although only growing up for the first 7 years of my life in the Philippines, I was really too young to care about what I looked like. I enjoyed life and played like how any child would play at that time. So only when I came to Canada did I feel curiosity of my identity and was more exposed to body shaming and oppression towards my culture, because as Canada is a multicultural country, there are different understandings or not yet fully developed understanding of intersectionality. In the next slide, we'll hear a continuation of the same video, but from a man's perspective and what he says about how the generation today is like now.
I think the beauty standards now for women, at least in my generation, we're more open to like the natural Filipina beauty, na morenas, the morena power and all that.
So, like what we heard the gentleman say in the previous videos, that the generation now is definitely more open to the natural Filipina beauty and are more socially accepted. And I think also that more and more actresses, models, and media influencers today are embracing their darker skin complexion, even advertising body positivity on social media. And as what I wrote on the bottom of the slide is that overall, because of all these figure, color, and culture limitations, not only did I find it difficult to fit in at first, but I think any child will find it difficult to reach their full potential and realize them in an early age if all they hear are prejudiced comments viewing humans through a single lens.
Hello, my name is Alexandra, and I wanted to share how I felt growing up learning about body image. So, while working on the assignment, I recalled in my childhood owning a lot of Barbie doll toys. I used to watch all the movies about Barbie on loop and even owned a couple of games from Barbie. She was my idol because she could do anything and be anything she wanted, whether it was being a great singer, a dancer, a princess or a fairy, or even more. I wanted to be just like her, but I remembered at some point, while I was changing the outfits of my dolls, noticing their body shape. They were so thin. They had such small waists, and I remember wondering if this is how all women looked like when they got older. I certainly looked nothing like that, so I dismissed it and accepted it as a fact that all ladies looked like that upon maturing. Another thing I noticed was, how come all the dolls look different from me? Out of all the movies and games and dolls, I couldn't recall any dolls or characters from Barbie who looked anything like me. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me objectively, but I subconsciously grew to think that perhaps lighter skin was better, or blue eyes were prettier. I thought my hair and eye colors were so bland compared to the blonde hair and blue eyes like Barbie's. I thought, maybe they think people that had similar traits to Barbie looked better. By the time I was in high school, I had begun to be more aware of the media around me on a personal level than I did as a child. As previously stated, I never really thought about my body when I was younger very much, because I was under the impression that my body would change to look the way I was used to seeing from magazines and television shows, or from the very dolls that I owned. I didn't dislike my body, but it felt strange seeing all these advertisements around me that depicted bodies that seemed so totally different compared to mine. I also remember girls in my grade throughout all of grade 8 to grade 12 would always talk about celebrity women with their ideal bodies, and wanted to diet or change their living habits so that they were Beachbody ready. When they didn't, and we all returned to school the next autumn, many would lament on the fact their stomach wasn't flat, or they didn't achieve their goal. Or maybe they didn't feel as beautiful as these celebrities do. Even I felt some sort of psychological inclination towards being thin for the summer, even though I highly doubted I would be going to any beaches or swimming pools. I wondered why I felt the need to change like this, when it wasn't even really for my own sake. Where did the idea come from? Why did I feel embarrassed about my body, when in reality, I knew there was nothing wrong with it? A little after I became a senior in high school, I became more interested in skincare, but I also learned that there were so many processes that women did in order to achieve the perfect skin. Anti-aging, pore shrinkage, creams for whitening the skin, brushes for deep cleansing and preventing micro tears in the skin, and many more were revealed to me. It made me wonder, how much do we prize our faces like this? I understand wanting to take care of your skin, but there are tools I don't recognize, treatments I've never even heard of before, and an emphasis for having completely unblemished and trace-free skin for the perfect face. Of course, men are bothered by having blemishes on their skin as well, but why have all of the advertisements I've seen revolved around women? Why is there such a hyper-focus on how our faces look? In my personal experience, I only know one guy who is interested in skincare, while the rest don't really understand why we have cleansers, toners, creams, and all these things for our faces because they claim soap and water is enough. I criticize and question, yet I often worry about my own skin as well, despite the fact I didn't when I was younger. How much has society's ideals affected us without knowing? How did this become the norm?
Hello, I'm Anna. When I was growing up, I was always seen as the fat girl in school. My classmates were always smaller or skinnier in size, while I was more rounded and taller. This made me stand out the most when I wanted to make myself smaller so I could be away from the center of attention, away from the teasing and bullying. I was always self-conscious about my size, which prevented me from trying new things like sports. I just thought that I was not good enough because of my weight without even trying. This made gym class the worst part of elementary school, as I was usually the last one to be picked for teams, or I would be embarrassed to try anything in front of all my classmates, fearful that they would laugh at me for the rest of the day. I learned now that it was not my classmates' fault that they were acting in such a way. It is the flaw in the system that caused them to be this way. It is the dominant group in media that had influenced them to think that there is a perfect or ideal body, which is being skinny. This is not the case. All body shapes and types are beautiful in their own way. This did not help with how body image was portrayed at home either. In Cantonese, we have a phrase that roughly translates to, "Eating is a blessing." This blessing to me soon turned into a curse. When having meals with my relatives, my aunts would love to pile my plates with an enormous amount of food. This seems to be a wonderful thing until their comments afterwards. After dinner, we like to sit and chat, which is when the nightmare comes along. Comments like, "You seem to have put on some weight," or "How would you find someone to like you when you look like that?" are often said to me by my family. This was really confusing to me, as I am getting mixed messages of how much I should be eating, yet have to make sure that I do not gain weight. This is an example of a socially constructed image of how a female should look like in order to be suitable to get married in Chinese culture. Women need to be skinny enough to attract mates, but would also need to have a sizable buttocks, as this was seen as the ability to bear many children. My aunts have this ingrained in their minds, and they are trying to impose that idea on myself as well.
Body or body image was not a discussion while growing up in my family. Maybe because I had what was considered a regular body, not big, not small. That was not a topic that permeated my childhood. At 6 or 7, I joined my city's swimming federation and became an athlete. Even now, being an athlete, my body never was an issue of discussion. In my teen years, I started to be more aware of my body image, but never in a depreciative way. I liked my body. The only time that my body became an issue was when I spent a year in the United States as an exchange student, where I gained 10 kilos. When I came back to my swimming team, comments on how I gained weight were common among my peers. My coach mentioned that I was too heavy to swim as good as I once had. That was the first time that my weight became a discussion. Eventually, I lost those 10 kilos with my daily swimming practice, but that memory was now kept in my mind. When in University of Fashion Design, one of my best friends was considered overweight. She was now happy with her body after struggling for a long time with all types of diets during her teenage years. One of her biggest struggles was finding clothes that were modern in her size, and she always mentioned how she felt excluded. We then decided to do our final degree project together, which was about plus-size fashion and the difficulties of plus-size women to find great fashion. This project became a fashion store, and we became business partners. During 4 years, clients became friends, and with each piece sold, we heard phrases such as, "I feel amazing," "I never thought I would look good using stripes," or "I wish I had found you earlier." We felt that we were empowering each woman that bought our clothes, boosting their self-esteem, making them feel good with themselves. We were helping these women to break systemic barriers, to fight the standards of oppression that was imposed on them by the mainstream society. In Brazil, a westernized country, the United States played a big influence among upper social classes in my childhood. However, the Brazilian beauty standards for common, everyday women dictated small breasts and large bottom. A curvy shape was the norm, especially among lower classes, with the popular culture samba being one big influence. The mainstream culture now dictates a more athletic figure, with bigger breasts and bottom, as shown by these popular singers, Ivete Sangalo and Anitta. However, Preta Gil, also a popular singer, still suffers prejudice because of her body, still considered above the ideal standards. As seen in our memories, Children are bombarded with uncountable messages about body images. Ranging from their mother's own body image to the massive presence of media, children's body image is socially constructed throughout their lives since their birth. First family and later peers, their social interactions play a major role on the construction of the body images. In cultural contexts that the standards of body image is of a larger size, children can grow with this idea. However, today, in our globalized, westernized world, the mainstream society dictates that a smaller size is the ideal body standards, even when a vast majority of the population is far away from reaching it. Greater parental weight stigma and negative body image attitudes have been associated with greater weight stigma in children. Furthermore, children are exposed to broader societal weight stigma through media, with studies showing that overweight characters in media are often depicted negatively, while thinner characters are often depicted positively. Educators have a powerful role helping children to think critically about the message that their bodies tell. Their body needs respect, and every child deserves to feel comfortable in their own bodies. Respecting themselves is the first step to respect the differences in those around them.
Girls and the objectification theory. Objectification theory posits that girls and women are typically acculturated to internalize an observer's perspective as the primary view of their physical selves. This perspective on self can lead to habitual body monitoring, which in turn can increase women's opportunities for shame and anxiety, reduce opportunities for peak motivational state, and diminish awareness of internal bodily state.
As of April the 5th, the world population is around 7 billion people. Imagine if we all look the same. People come in many shapes, sizes, and colors. We may all look different, act different, and sound different, but don't be fooled, we are all people. Everybody is unique and beautiful.